been too long. Thanks for not hating me after we built this new device, Resampler Pro. I feel like I was just constantly being like, well, what if we did this? And what if we did this? And after you work on it for several hours, I was like, let's rechange this. And then, so thanks for not hating me.
No, it's so common that people come with an idea.
Yeah.
And once you patch stuff together and people see, it's kind of like, it would be cool to do it the complete other way around. No, not the other way, complete other way, but you get the picture. It's same like doing music with people. You're like, it would be so cool if you could play those chords like double time.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, play them half time.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I feel like being a plugin developer at a well-known company where everybody has opinions would be tough, for sure.
Yeah.
Props to them.
I love the challenge. I love the challenge to create something new.
Yeah.
Plus have it somehow accessible for people. So this is like the biggest challenge with developing Max for Live devices. It's like, I could add this function and that function and that function. Yeah, but that makes it so complex and so like, how do you still keep it accessible and easy just to understand and to click a few buttons for things to happen and not to put too much stuff in it, even if it would be great.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot that goes into developing Max for Live devices, and you do a ton of that. I mean, that's pretty much your full-time job for the most part, right? So yeah, shout out to you for a Resampler Pro. For anybody who doesn't know, we officially released it yesterday, but I'm also moving, so I didn't really make a big announcement yet. But officially, it was supposed to be yesterday. But I did post it in the Ableton Certified Trainer Facebook group, which honestly I think is the best part of being a certified trainer is that Facebook group. And it's the only reason I'm really on Facebook anymore. But everybody loved it. And I think people are sharing it. And the feedback has been really positive. And man, I appreciate you for doing all the heavy lifting on that Max for Live device and making it happen. So for anybody who doesn't really know what it is, do you want to explain it maybe real quick, or I can?
Maybe you. Because it was your idea.
It was my idea, but it wouldn't have happened without you. And we've got a lot of nerdy things to talk about. I keep getting messages, especially recently, of being like, Dan, I wish you'd go more technical and more nerdy on this podcast. And I was like, well, this could be that episode for us. But
let's do it.
Yeah. So Resampler Pro, it's basically like a Max for Live device that does a lot of the heavy lifting and automation for multi-sampling individual notes, which could be used for a lot of things. So, such as creating sample packs, right? If you wanted to, say, sample hardware, like you have a Moog Sub 37, that's one reason I actually wanted to do this, so I could quickly sample all my favorite patches from my Moog synth. You could automate that process and make it really quick with just a couple button clicks. If you wanted to, say, record plugins. So you have like your favorite Omnisphere patch. We all know Omnisphere is a pain in the ass when it comes to like computer processing. Like that thing makes me nervous if I was ever going to use that plugin on stage for live. You could multi-sample all the individual notes, and then you could throw that into Live Sampler and easily play it back just as audio, which would be more CPU friendly. And also, for people who don't really know, like some people who's newer to live or music production might be wondering, well, Dan, why don't you just record one note from like your synth or plugin and then just pitch shift it and play it back in like Live Sampler? Well, basically it would sound like garbage if you were trying to stretch the pitch of an individual note to a higher or lower octave. It's going to degrade that quality of sound. So there's a lot of applications. You could use it for sample packs or playing back digital instruments, plugins, whatever you want. And yeah, so that's a free plugin. And Tobi, that was your idea. I was like, maybe we could charge something. You're like, nah, let's give it to the people because you're a good guy. So yeah, it's a free download. You can go to liveproducersonline.com/resampler-pro, and I'll include a link in the show notes as well. If anybody wants to grab that for free, you'll subscribe to our email list and we'll send you more cool stuff. Yeah,
so if you want to resample your synth or your whatever, or if you need VST sounds you can't put on your Push 3, for example, that would be a good thing as well. What I like about the device is it has a lot of functions, but it's easy and accessible, and you only have to hit one sample thingy, and of course you need to make the routing right and the recording, but then it spits out the MIDI notes, and you can set a time, like how long should the MIDI note be, how long should like the sustain be, etc. And then it puts the single samples into a folder, and if you do the whole note range, you can just drag and drop this into a simpler or a sampler, and then apply the different note fields there with one click. So it's a really good starting point as well, I think, for people who want to look into resampling and have never done it. And because it's a free device, just head over to Dan's site and get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cool device. I mean, like you said, it's a great starting point. The velocity is fixed, which I assume some people might want to do multi-velocity to make it a little more expressive, specifically for drums. That would be, something that would make sense. But
you can put in, like, let's say if you want to do 4 velocity layers, you just do the whole process 4 times.
Yeah.
And that's, And
exactly.
Unfortunately, it wasn't easy to put it in so that it would do it automatically. So you could do it, but then the whole naming convention and the whole like importing it into and keep it still accessible, like it's exactly the point we had before, where I think like, well, actually it's a good starting point how it is now, and if you want to go deeper, you can go deeper, but you don't have to. And that's
yeah, exactly. I think the only thing that could make it better, other than maybe the multi-velocity, could be if Live's API was a little more open, and then you could have it directly automatically import into the sampler instrument. That would be cool. That was the dream, but not possible. So, yeah.
Or just like having by the naming convention. So if you have a C#, 1, D, 1, etc., that this would like automatically assign the sample selection in the editor, but you can't access the editor at all via the API, because it's just done for the front end easy accessible stuff like the Ableton API, which is like what you can access or what you can't. So
yeah, definitely, man. And I also thought it was really smart how you included the Edit All Clips Max for Live device. So there's really 2 Max for Live devices that you get when you download it. And the second, Edit All Clips, is brilliant, and it's the most simple device ever. Once you have all the audio clips recorded for individual notes that you sample from whatever, you can just throw this Max for Live device on that audio track with all the clips in session view. And then you would basically you can just drag the start or end marker of the clip if, say, there's a little latency or something at the beginning, which there possibly would be if you're sampling hardware. Yeah. And then it'll just automatically edit all the clips, all the notes on that audio track to the start and end marker that you set once, which is beautiful. So shout out to you for that. And also the gain volume on all the clips as well. So you can really customize just one of the notes, and it applies it to all of them, which is nice.
Yeah, I have a device in the pipeline which is doing that for a whole scene. So this is really interesting for people who are like cutting up their song into parts in different scenes in Ableton Live, and then they might like need to edit those afterwards, or they don't want to crop the samples and have them at different parts. So you just put it in once, you edit the first one, and then you can apply all the edits to all the stems in that scene, and then you just duplicate the scene, and then you edit the next part. And so it's a different way of like just having a really much quicker workflow of like editing your different parts into different scene sections.
That's nice.
Yeah, I hope I'm gonna, it's uploaded already. I just didn't find the time so far to do a tutorial on it.
Yeah.
But I have so many great devices, man.
How many devices do you think you've made? How many Max for Live devices have you made, if you just had to guesstimate?
It's about 200 now, I guess.
Wow. That's
like last year I put out around I think I had 40 releases, and some of those were packs. So you had like 4 or 5 devices in there. So last year alone, I guess I put out around 50 to 60 devices.
Only. That's amazing.
only.
So it's like that's like one a week, maybe a little more than one a week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
And
amazing.
I just finished one today, which is part of like a advanced MIDI control thingy, and I have 3 uploaded already for different foot controllers, and 2 now which are for buttons and for dials on your MIDI controller. And they gonna go out soon as well. So it's
Cool.
the idea is to have like multiple layers on your controller. So usually you have a controller, let's say you have 8 buttons. And maybe 8 buttons are not enough, but you don't want to bring another controller, and maybe you just need like you only want to press this button number 1 and it should do the right thing at the right point. So, and you can say, well, at this part or at this song, I want this one button to toggle the metronome on and off. And at a different part in your song, in your set, you want to say like, I want to use this button to jump to the next locator.
Oh, that's brilliant. So you can easily and quickly just assign one button or knob to do multiple functions at different points in your set.
Yes.
That's sick. Because I've actually run into that several times when I'm helping doing playback with a couple different artists who are like, I don't want to carry 2 extra MIDI controllers with me. That's dope. I love that.
So that could mean if you're in session, for example, if you're in session view, if you say like you have always like one button for intro, one button for verse, and one for chorus. And if you're playing like, if you don't play set arrangements, if you're playing like electronic loop-based stuff, for example, and then you can always have those 3 buttons will always trigger the different parts of that song you are in now, because you can automate this and just switch to the next layer.
That's cool.
So this is a button version, and I have this for dials as well, which is beautiful, because this is really where you say like, well, actually, I always have those 3 dials controlling particular effects in an effect rack or of the instrument, and you can automate this so that it will always like control the right instrument you're playing at the moment.
Wow. So would you just like create a MIDI automation clip, I assume, just wherever you want that to take place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, many MIDI controllers, like even the cheap ones, already have this, and it's called usually like layers or sessions. So you can say, I want my MIDI controller to send out a different MIDI message, a different CC number, for example, at a different point. But then you have to press this button, and a lot of people don't feel that comfortable with like, what is MIDI and how do I change it and what does it mean? So my devices are solving that for people already, because you see the name of the parameter you're controlling.
That's nice.
And you have like up to 128 layers, so you can control a lot with only like 4 dials, or
that's insane.
2 dials even.
So technically you could have 128 different changes on one single knob.
Yes.
That's sick. That's overwhelming and awesome. I love that. That's really cool, man. Yeah, you're brilliant. Like, I love a lot of the devices you've had. I'll share a couple of my favorites too at some point in this episode. But welcome back. This is your 2nd time on the podcast, isn't it? Yeah, because
I think it's even the 3rd time.
Is this the 3rd?
I think so. I'm not sure, but we had one about 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was episode 73. I mean, there might have been one before that too. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
If that's the case, you'd be tied with Brian Funk as the most returned guest on the episode. Yeah.
To Brian, great. Oh.
Yeah, Brian, you've got some competition.
Shout out to Brian, man.
Yeah, better step up your game, Brian. So what are some native features or workflows you wish Live had? Because obviously that's one reason why Max for Live basically exists today, is because people want to kind of hack Live's interface to do things it doesn't natively do. You've created a lot of devices for that purpose, but like, if you had to pick just a handful of your top things you wish Live could do that it doesn't, what would it be? I'm just curious. I had this conversation with Alberto Chapa. You know Alberto, right?
Yes.
Yeah, super nice guy. He's the brand manager. But he talked about this too. He was asking me several things I wanted to change. So I have a running list, actually, in my Apple Notes.
Yeah, I think everyone has a long list of things. It's a funny question for me, because actually I'm benefiting from the things which are natively possible in Ableton Live.
That's true.
So
yeah.
I'm kind of like, oh, I don't want Ableton to change this because then I can't. No, but seriously, like the MIDI mapping is a little bit dated because you can't edit things just putting stuff in. You always need to have the controller or route an ISC drive. If you want to do a MIDI mapping for a controller, which is not there, it's a big workaround. And then it's not a nice workflow, and especially like being able to just pull in certain MIDI mappings or not. So yeah, but that's a good example for the device I just mentioned, or for the devices I just mentioned. Like all the global controls now can be saved for your controller. You just drag and drop it into your user library and you recall it if you need this certain thing for the global controls.
Yeah.
Plus, I did some testing on some stuff where you can set some stuff up via macro controls as well for your controller and just store and recall presets over there as well. But coming back on your questions, yeah, I think that's really something, and that's something Matt Moldover.
Shout out Matt. I love Matt.
Yeah, shout out to Matt.
He took over the Indianapolis user group that I was running before I moved to Denver.
Ah, wow, yeah.
Yeah, he's a brilliant guy.
Yeah. And he mentioned that to me like already in 2018, I think. Ableton should really like update their MIDI mapping thing. That's something which is coming to my mind. And obviously there are a lot of, I would say it wouldn't hurt Ableton to make more things as accessible in the API, so that people like me can go in and say like, well, actually, for example, taking this Resampler Pro we just released to the next step and add this function here, add this function there. And at the moment, a lot of things are a workaround even in the API. So for example, for the editing from the first clip, so if you're editing in the first clip, and then if you want to change the other ones, like the second device, which is packed with the resampler, I need to switch on all the tracks before I can edit them. And then I edit them, and then I have to switch off the warping. Yeah, I have to switch on the warping to be able to edit the start and stop marker, and then it needs to be stopped. So
yeah,
and just like little things like that where you feel like, well, yeah, there must be a reason for that, but actually, it took me like 3 hours. Like, why isn't that working? It needs to be switched on. Okay.
Yeah.
So making more things accessible in the Ableton API would be beneficial for everyone, because people would be able to access much more particular use cases, which the beauty about Ableton Live is everyone uses Ableton Live different, and especially in those different scenes of like, producers, people playing live, backing track operations, etc. So you have all those different directions on where Ableton Live is the standard. And for all those different people, you could add this as like, you could add so many more features via having more things accessible in the API. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice for sure from a developer perspective. Yeah, there'd be a lot more you could do. Also, I was on a CT call, I don't know, a couple of years ago with Robert Henke, and he was talking about this specific thing about people wanting more open access to the API. And he said that there was part of the reason I think they haven't is because of security concerns and like vulnerabilities with people being able to basically hack Ableton. So I know that there were some security concerns, and you said there were certain API or things that they didn't allow because of that. But I'm sure there's ways around it for certain things that you could or couldn't do, So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. You never think of like Ableton actually being able to be hacked. But I guess it's possible,
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah.
For all the extended trial versions.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. The free extended trials.
Yeah. I mean, it must be a big challenge for Ableton, like when they are deciding on new features to add and to focus, and what project should we add or not, and stuff like that. So it's really, I mean, they did some groundbreaking things with the 11.2 update, the whole tempo follow stuff, what we talked about in the last podcast.
Yeah.
Which I think it just came out at this point, or it was still in beta, I guess, when we talked. And I was expecting much more people to use the tempo follow stuff. For people who don't know, it's a function where you can feed in the drum audio from your drummer, and Ableton Live will follow your tempo fluctuations and make the music more not as static and make the music more breathe.
Yeah.
So I was expecting this to become a huge thing in some playback world.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Didn't look like it. And I have to say, partly it's partly no, I don't want to say, I wanted to say it's partly Ableton's fault, but that's not putting it right. I would say Ableton didn't market it pretty well.
A lot of people I know didn't even know that existed. Even in a recent user group, there was a lot of people who have been using Live for a long time who didn't know that was still a feature. It's kind of hidden unless you go into the preferences and turn it on. So
yeah, I mean, it's there are so many functions, obviously, but it must be really weird for a company saying like, well, let's implement this, and it is a huge thing in the background, and like having like everything work with this feature.
Yeah.
But then having not like really it taking off and it being used. I have one big band which is using it, Marillion. It's like a prog rock band which is still happening, but they had a few like top 10 hits in the late 80s, I think.
Cool.
They are playing big stages and stuff, and they are using it, live.
Yeah.
And,
how are they using it? Is it a kick drum mic?
I'm not 100% sure what drum signals they are feeding in, but I would suggest always at least do the kick and the snare.
Yeah.
At least.
So you would suggest two different sources, two mics feeding into that.
Yeah, but if you're playing a big stage, everything is mic'd anyways, and then you just create a subgroup or split the mics or whatever. It depends on how you want to use it. But even for smaller bands, and I wrote a whole guide about it, a PDF guide. If people are interested in that, go for Tempo Follow Guide. Look for Tempo Follow Guide at abletondrummer.com. There's a search bar on the top right. I explain a lot of different dynamic tempo control concepts there are in Ableton Live, and with a focus on tempo follow and how to use it, what to expect from it, and what not.
Yeah, definitely I need to check that out. I played with it very briefly in my own room with I think I just mic'd my electric kit. It was just like smacking the mic like next to the kick drum, and it worked. It worked fine. I was surprised actually how well it actually It worked really well without skipping. I was expecting more jumping in the tempo to glitch a little, but it's actually very smooth. The slow transition.
It is very stable. It is very, very stable. But what you need to know, it's not like you just play something and it follows. You need to give it a reference tempo. You know, so you like, for example, if you have a song where you want to use it, you tap in the song, or you have an average tempo you want to play it, you start it for and then you play 2 bars for it, and then you can automate tempo follow to be on after 2 bars, and then it knows, okay, this song is around 110, and then it will just do fluctuations around the tempo. So it's not meant for big tempo jumps.
Right.
And that's why it is so stable, because it won't jump weird. It won't do any stutters or jump. So that's why it is so stable. But you need to know that it needs a reference tempo and that you need to give it a reference tempo first. Yeah. And then it's really stable. And people use it live on big stages, but not a lot of people, unfortunately, so far.
Yeah. I guess I really haven't had a need to, even when I was playing with a live band, but I could see how it could be valuable depending on the style of music you're playing and what you're wanting to do. Yeah, I have a decent list of like Ableton changes or fixes, I think.
Interesting. Tell me. Yeah. Top of the list.
Honestly, so I do a lot of editing with this podcast and with video. So I'm jumping sample rates usually between 48 and 44, 100.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be nice if the sample rate per project saved almost like a template. So if I open a project that started at 44.1, it stays at 44.1. If I opened it at 48, it stays at 48. And obviously you can always downsample or upsample or whatever, but it would just be nice if that was a thing. It just stuck with the project. I mean, I think that would be an easy thing to implement. So I don't know. That's one thing.
I think so. That's like one of the things where I love when people are coming to me with ideas like, hey, I have a really great idea. Could you just program this? Could you just
It'll be so easy, Toby. It's so easy.
And my point, like, and then it's like every second time people are saying like, and a lot of people will use it and need it. And this is so typical for people because like everyone's gonna love it. Everyone's needing this because I need it.
That's
it's
right.
Kind of like, actually, no, that's not how Ableton Live works. First of all, people use it in so many different ways. Second of all, you need to do the whole like, not just putting it out. You need to work on the marketing. You need to establish yourself as someone who's doing stable stuff and people are following what you're releasing and looking for stuff from you. So that's the hard work. Just doing things is the fun part. Like finding solutions is the fun part, but having it released as a product is like, okay. And then doing all the marketing, it's a lot of work.
Definitely. It really is. Yeah, I have a marketing background, so like I feel like I can appreciate that on some level. But it's funny, you're right. Everybody thinks that their Ableton suggestions are the most important, that everybody would use it, right? Because the world revolves around you a lot of times. Steve Jobs actually had a really interesting quote. He said that if he only had $2 to invest in a product, he would spend $1 on developing the product itself and the other dollar on marketing. Yeah.
Which is crazy. Always getting like those commercials on Instagram or whatever where people are saying like, hey, we made $30,000 in this week and we only spent $20,000 on marketing.
Sign up today.
Which is kind of, and it's really like, I mean, I'm coming to this point where I need a different marketing strategy maybe, but I just don't want to waste money on like advertising, and I don't want to be one of those adverts people like being annoyed of and stuff. I mean, I think at some point I have to do some stuff, maybe more, and if people are listening to that and saying, oh, I'm getting sorry for that, but it's crazy. I want to create like content which is valuable for people, and I want that people because of that are relating to me and my brand and signing up to my newsletter for that, and looking if they need a solution, looking on my page for that and stuff, and not being like, whoa, here's my stuff,
just blasting everyone. But you know, like that could be tricky, is to find your right audience, and I think that applies not only just for people who are creating products like you, but for artists to like find their specific fans. There's so shout out to Entrepreneur. Circa was on the podcast, I don't know, forever ago. But I took his Fan Finder Facebook and Instagram advertising course. I think it's like $50 or something.
Wow.
And it was great. Like I learned a lot about like advertising through socials to like find your niche audience. So for anybody who's wanting to do any kind of social ads, might check out entrepreneur.com. He has a good course on that I learned a ton. It's amazing how much money people waste on ads. and not even really knowing how to even create content that's going to be catching people's attention. It could be really tough.
It is, man, but it is a struggle. And I mean, consistency is the key, I think. So like with your podcast, you're like when people are asking me like what you're doing tonight, I'm like, I'm having this interview at this like one of the two main podcasts. Obviously, Brian's is the other one, and then it's yours, and that's like the two I'm following.
Thanks,
so
man.
and I think those are the ones which, like, from my perspective, there are more, and probably I haven't really looked and searched for some. So sorry if I don't mention the ones I should know. And this is like because you're doing this now for like 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah, man. I think the first episode was November 2017.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And that's the same like with AbletonDrummer.com. I started this like in, I think 2016.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Putting out my first devices in 2018, 2019, and then realizing, there is like some interest in there and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was only last year where I could say like, well, actually with the low bills I I can manage to live off or with like a small flat, etc. and stuff. And I'm now able, like after 5 years, able to say like, okay, I can do this full time now, and it actually pays my bills.
Yeah, so and that's awesome. And I love the stuff you create.
I'm so glad, man.
I think, and I love having you on the podcast because I think more people need to know about the devices and the work that you do, because I think you're super talented and you deserve more credit. Yeah. Hopefully people will go to check out your site, download some devices, especially for live perform. You have so much live performance stuff. It's insane. Like, you've got some of my favorite devices that you've made. Well, actually, let me ask you this before we jump into that, and I'll share you some of my favorite devices you made. But what were you doing before 2016 for work? I'm just curious. Like, I don't really know a ton about your past now that I think about it.
I came back to Germany. I was living in the UK for 4 years. I studied music there, and it was kind of like the urge to like, okay, let's try to make a career as a performing musician and as a writing and composing musician. And I came back to Germany in 2009, started to teach drums, started to do some Ableton Live lessons, and working as a drummer still, and writing music and having my own original bands where writing music for and doing the management, the booking stuff, this stuff. Yeah, doing some other jobs here and there, and teaching, and maybe it's doing some live sound stuff or whatever, or people like just like being in a circuit, but people get phone calls like, hey, need a hand on Saturday, are you free, and stuff like that. Yeah, that's kind of like what I did. And then I felt like, oh, wow, it would be great to do some more online stuff and being like more flexible with the hours, and especially where you are, because like I'm living in Germany and the winter here is really not sunny.
Not pleasant, really.
Yeah. So to get my serotonin levels right, I love to go away in the winter time for a few weeks to have a little winter break. Go somewhere sunny. I went to South Africa last winter, which was amazing.
Whoa, what was there?
It was so great, man, because I was in Cape Town, and by accident, because today I got like 5 emails from people from all over the world, like so I got contacts and people using my stuff and relating to me or asking me questions from all over the world. And I was in contact with someone from Cape Town, and he was telling me, oh, I'm seeing you're doing stuff with this one artist here. He's from Cape Town as well. And I was like, oh, you're from Cape Town as well? Okay. Yeah, and this guy is as well from Cape Town. I was like, cool. I know 3 people in Cape Town. I've never been to South Africa. Let's have a look how much the flights are. And I was like, whoa, that's looking doable. So
nice.
So I was just writing those 3 people and saying like, well, I'm thinking about like coming to Cape Town. Are you guys around? Do you want to meet up or whatever? And then I even got in contact with the Ableton user group in Cape Town, did like a presentation there.
That's awesome.
and did some workshops at the university, and worked with one artist down there, a live looping artist. And that's the beauty of my job, is kind of like going to South Africa, going to Cape Town, and like being invited to people's houses, and just like it's a really good, and it's very similar to like the touring experience I had as a musician, where you kind of like go to a city and people are really welcoming because you're playing a show, and and people invite you for dinner or to the houses and stuff, and it's my way of traveling and getting to know a place, is the people, obviously. So yeah.
I'm sure you were like a savior to them. They were probably like welcoming you with open arms. Like this tech guru comes from a faraway land who's like teaching all this kind of cool advanced stuff, but they loved it.
Yeah, and I mean it's always like learning both ways,
Yeah.
It's like for me, like it sounds like yes, of course I'm a guru at this particular thing. Like people are coming to me and saying like, well, I have this one controller and it's speaking those weird MIDI messages, but I really want to use it because it looks so cool. Can you make this work? And I'm yes, of course. But at other points, obviously, I'm like, ooh, how do you do that? That's
right.
Whoa, I didn't know you can do that. So, and yes, and that's why those user groups are so great, because usually it's really lovely people.
Yeah.
Really, like, there's not a lot of competition happening.
Right.
It's more like, hey, I want to help you to do some things.
Yeah.
I want to learn something from you, So, yeah, it's a nice exchange. Really great community.
I love that. Yeah, and all the times I've spoken at user groups, like those are some of my favorite memories of just meeting new people. I feel like I learned just as much as I'm sharing, if not more. And it's it's a great idea exchange with people, and you just never know who you're going to meet. It's just I love the user groups and would like to travel and do more of them. I've been to Africa, actually. I went to Zambia, which is, I think, directly north of South Africa. So it wasn't too far. If you ever go back, I don't know how far of a drive it would be, but Victoria Falls is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been or seen in my life. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world. It's the tallest waterfall.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. I actually was in 7th grade, so it's been a minute, but I jumped off. I jumped off of the falls. There's a huge canyon. Yeah, I know. I can't believe my mom let me do it. Honestly, like she must have been freaking out. But it's cool. They had a zip line, and in hindsight, now that I look at it, like they recorded a video, and I'm like, that wasn't really that safe. Like it didn't look. They literally have like these 2 like wooden posts that look like they're starting to rot a little bit, like crossing a canyon, and you just jump off and free fall for like 450 feet, and then it catches you and you swing. It was in hindsight, I would never let my kids do that, but it was a blast. If you ever get the chance, anybody's over near Zambia, Africa, gotta go.
So yeah, but I mean that's like, I'm not sure how old are you? It's like 25 years ago, 20.
I'm 35, man.
35, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So but health and safety was different 25 years ago. Just the whole concept of like what makes sense, like let your kids do stuff to make experiences and to find the boundaries themselves. Maybe that's part of it as well. I don't know, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely not ready for parenthood. I know that much. But anyway, so some of your Max for Live devices, back to Ableton stuff.
Yes.
Like I've said, you've made a ton that are really solid. Some of my favorite are the new 1-button live looper. Is very simple and easy. And that's specifically only for session view, right? Because I played with it for a hot minute. And I really liked it a lot. For anybody who wants to do live looping, you don't want to invest in like a expensive looper pedal or whatever else. This makes it really easy and it's stable. I played with it and had no problems. It's great for pairing. You also have a fixed clip length device, which could also work well with that as well. So you could just hit the looper and determine at any point in time like how many bars you want it to start playing back immediately without you having to hit it twice. You could do overdubbing, and it records across scenes in a group. So you just include however many tracks that you'd want to record inside of a group. Yeah. And then you can just up to 10, right?
Up to 10, yeah. But if you need more, you can just have a second looper. But
Oh yeah.
I need to limit it, like it's, at some point, and usually people only do like 4 to 5 layers max on one looper, but you can just have a second looper, and if you want to, you can have 20 loopers. It's just like
100 loopers.
customization. Yeah. I tried it once. It actually works if your computer can work it, but
yeah, that's a lot of looping, but it works great. And it's an awesome quick fix for people who want to do some more custom live looping and use that Max for Live device. It also has like a pop-up expandable window, which is nice too. Yes. So you can kind of see what's going on.
So the advantage about compared to hardware loopers is that you can, like on hardware loopers, usually you are bind to the length of the first loop on like this layer. So if you do like a 1 bar thingy, if you then want to do a 2 bar thingy as on the second layer, like it's not possible. So that's one advantage, and the other advantage is the visual feedback, where you can just like have things being shown, and it shows you like the length of the first in the circle, sliding circle, and the second as well. Plus, and that's for arrangement as well, you can record every single layer in arrangement, and that's really great for people who are want to record them, like doing a performance. They want to record themselves, and obviously there are maybe some mistakes, maybe some little things where you want to have the volumes different, and you're not able to edit all the single layers when you record, like even in the Ableton looper, everything is like one audio clip, all the different layers. But with my looper, because it's recording on individual tracks, you are able to go back and edit your half-hour performance, like really to what you need. Maybe do some smaller edits because you effed up at some point on the 100th layer.
Yeah.
You can use MIDI and audio, which is great because we all love Ableton Live because we can customize it to our needs. So if you say, well, actually, my first thing is beatboxing via a microphone, but my second layer is me playing whatever sound via my MIDI keyboard, it just can be all in one looper. So, and those are, I think, if you are into that kind of thing, you should check it out just to see if it's for you. Obviously, it can't fit to all needs. It can't, there are so many different looping techniques and needs for what people want to do.
Yeah.
So, but I have a lot of people using it, some bigger artists using it, and they don't want to go back.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome all-in-one solution for people who want straightforward, slightly customizable live looping. I think for people who want like way more advanced, robust types of things, Loopy Pro seems to be an all-in-one solution. I don't know if you've ever played with their stuff. They're coming out with the VST. I don't think it's released yet, which will be really interesting because it's only been an OS or iOS right now. Yeah, iOS. Yeah, but I think your stuff works great. Out of the box solution for looping for sure. Yeah, your arrangement looper version 2 is also cool. I've played with that a little bit as well for people who perform an arrangement or want to do live looping in arrangement view. I think it's solid.
Yeah, it's a little different looping approach because usually it's like a lot of people using it who are playing live with set arrangements, but they want to maybe decide on the fly where to loop, how long to loop, or maybe they want to do some quick edits. Maybe let's loop this part 8 times instead of 2 times for this show. So this is, I have 3 different devices for arrangement looping. So it's just a way on dynamically or edit the loop brackets in arrangement view and the loop points. And you can set this up via automation, or you can set this up spontaneously to say like, oh yeah, just have those 4-bar loops now. And I think so it's 3 different devices in total, and one is actually free. The arrangement looper version 2 is free, and the other ones are on the same page, I think. So if people are looking for stuff, I haven't worked this out properly now, but if you are looking for stuff, go to abletondrummer.com and have a search in the search bar, or on the blog. In the blog, you will find all the devices. I have to update the Max for Live section there, but it's so many devices and it's just a huge page, so it's a little bit I love to spend more time on developing stuff than on
promoting it.
Well, having stuff being, you know what I mean. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm helping you promote all the stuff that you make. Yeah, for sure. Please. I'll let you do all the heavy lifting and the developing I don't want to do, and I'll just share it with people. It's a good deal. Yeah.
Which is like why the Resampler Pro is such a great collab, because it's just like, cool. It's like, it's going to be great for so many people, and especially with the push 3, where you're limited, you can't use your VSTs, but you want to use your sounds. So it's a really good solution. Yeah, I have looked into that kind of things before, but then you came with the idea and saying like, well, actually it would be really cool to have this tool for your Moog, and now it's kind of like, cool. So we put this out together, and I don't have to do any marketing, and it's just out there, and and people will love it and use it, and
I hope so. I mean, I've had good feedback from, like I said, the certified trainers and other people I've sent it to, so hopefully the world will enjoy it and find good use out of it. If you have feedback, you can always respond to the email that you get with the download. But I can't promise I'll help you troubleshoot whatever you need. Just disclaimer.
Put it out for free for that reason.
Exactly. That was your advice. You're like, if you charge, then you have to actually troubleshoot and help people with support. And I was like, I don't know if I have time to do that. Not that we don't care, because we do. It's just
yes, but it's just getting too much. I mean, we need to set boundaries at some point. And
yes, that's true, man. That's really true. For everybody, you got to have boundaries. I think probably my most used device, or one of the most used I've used of yours, was the SPDX drum pad. I don't know what the proper name was for it, but it was
Kit Selector.
The Kit Selector, which is great for bank changes or preset changes. You can automate that super easy, and I would do that in my live sets because I'd be doing standing drumming and DJing and playing guitar, and like running the band through my APC 40 to do effects, and it was just so much, and I was like, I can't, like my squirrel brain couldn't handle trying to do that much on stage. So I loved that device for just easy bank changes. And I was going to say, if you ever wanted to do that same device for the Alesis Strike pad, I would be fine with it, because that's what I'm using these days. I don't know if you've ever played with that, but I love that drum pad. That drum pad's probably my new favorite.
Okay. I have to I'm not sure if I did one already.
You might have.
I definitely looked at, I have those kit changes for nearly all Roland thingies. I have it for the TD50, for the SPDX Pro.
Right. When did that come out? Like 2 years ago or a year ago? It's new, right?
Last September. So it's I
haven't touched it. Yeah. Do you have one?
Yes, I do.
You love it? What's the big difference between the SX previous version?
Oh, the big differences are you got lights on there. So it's similar like on the Alesis Strike Pad Pro, I think it's called.
Yeah.
You got like lights, so which is great because a lot of people, when they're using it live, they're on stage, and a lot of people just taped stuff on the SX to make the pads visible. So you don't need to do that anymore. And that's really cool for Ableton Live. You can use the SX Pro, the Roland SPDX Pro, as a audio interface to send your tracks out. You can do this with the SX, the former version, but you only get 2, like a stereo out. And obviously, if you're running tracks, you want to send out more stuff. So you get 6 balanced outputs.
Oh, that's nice. That alone, I think, would be a good upgrade. Yeah.
So this is like, especially for Ableton world, this is the greatest update on there, because you don't have to. And I know drummers who are like don't bring their external audio interface anymore, and just using this one to send out stems and their drum sounds. And you get more trigger inputs. So for everyone who doesn't know, you are able to put triggers like little microphones on your drums, on your acoustic drums, and they will send a signal to the SPDX, and you can then create some MIDI you can send to Ableton to trigger sounds, which makes sense if you want automatic changes. Or obviously you can trigger sounds which are stored inside the SX in both versions. And the SX comes with 4 mono trigger inputs, and the SX Pro comes with 8, if I'm right. So it's 4 stereo or 8 mono ins.
That's great. So if you had a small electric set, then you could eliminate the brain and just run it into the SPDX Pro, which would be nice.
Yeah.
Save you like $800 to $1,500.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you want to do. It is a little bit funky for me always, because companies are putting out a product on the market, and if it's the big companies, they usually put out stuff which is kind of like so behind what's possible already in other products of theirs. So for example, you only have 2 layers of velocity on the SX Pro. Just to, like, for everyone who doesn't know, if you're playing drums, and if you play drums via MIDI, you want to have as many velocity layers, like having the actual acoustic drum resampled in different velocity layers to make it sound more natural, because it's just not loud or quiet. It's just not volume. It's the whole timbre. It's the whole sound of a drum is sounding different if you strike it hard or if you strike it low. So even in like the cheapest drum kits you're getting like at least 4 to 5 different velocity layers being sampled in there. So even on the cheapest Roland kit, you're getting this. But if you're buying, and I think it's around 1,100 now, the SX Pro, you're only getting 2 velocity layers on there.
Oh, really? That's it?
So, and that's kind of like, yeah, just don't use the internal.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Just plug it into Ableton and send it out this way, and just be able to, yeah.
Well, and that's what's really cool about the whole MPE world now, right? Is like you can be extremely expressive if you have something that's like a multi-sampled drum that has like, who knows how many layers in there. You can get so expressive now, like with the push 3 pads. I know that I know you have some thoughts on the push 3.
Yes, let's talk about that.
But I do want to ask you, like, what is your favorite MPE drum pad? Like, if somebody just wanted something real expressive, they didn't have maybe a push 3, like, what's a cool drum pad that you could play? There was one that you mentioned, I forget what it was, but you could...
Airy Touch, yeah.
That's what it was, yeah.
So before we go into MPE, I just want to mention, like, if you are generally interested in about playing electronic drums for your live show, or just using one pad or something like that, you don't like just using different velocities and triggering and mapping the velocity to do some things already. Maybe just higher velocity, open up your reverb, for example. You can do a lot of expressions already just with the velocity.
Yeah.
Just to frame it right, you don't need to go MPE. And for MPE especially, so now we're on the MPE topic. So MIDI polyphonic expression, it's called. So it means that you have, for example, the position. So where do you play on a pad, on a drum pad, or on the push 3 on a single pad? It will detect the position where you are playing, and you can use this position to send out values, which you can then map and bind to parameters, for example, to the pitch, for example, to a different sample, or to audio effects. So so that's MPE.
Yeah.
For drumming, just generally, I would say I think it's not only, but most people who really can make use, like musically, for drumming and MPE, I think it's like really experimental stuff. Because you really like, you want to go, like you want to create something new and you want to have a different effect or sound
Mm-hmm.
every time. So that's why you play different positions, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So for most use cases, I would say maybe too advanced and adds too much and it's changing the focus on like having a proper snare or a proper clap sound there.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables you could add. Yeah.
So it's so the airy touch is great. There is the bob pad as well, which is a little bit cheaper if you want to start off with, if you want to use positions. I have devices obviously for both of those, and some resources if you want to look into that. I even have, if you want to start out without spending any money, I have an audio to MIDI trigger device, which you can use if you have Ableton 11 suite or Max for Live edit. And you just can plug in a microphone and mic your snare, and it will create a MIDI note with a fixed velocity, and you can just layer your live acoustic snare with a clap sound, for example. And maybe that's cool for people who are new to that, just to give it a try and just to find out if that's something they want to add and they want to invest in. So it is again a free device, audio to MIDI trigger, it's called, I think. I'm going to look it up. If I stop talking and let you talk again.
Yeah, that's totally fine. There was another device that you had. I can't remember the name of it, but you could reassign in any incoming MIDI notes to a different MIDI note. So you could kind of reroute, say, like a C#1 to a D2 or whatever.
Yeah,
that was kind of cool. That could be really valuable as well.
I mean, as I said, I have lots of devices. So this is like if you say, well, actually, I want a mic or I want a trigger from my acoustic drums or from my electronic drums or even just from an e-piano or just from one pad, whatever. And then you have MIDI and you have a MIDI note. And obviously, maybe you don't want to only play one sound. Maybe you want to play a melody. Maybe you want to play a bass line. Maybe you even want to play chords. This hit on your acoustic drum kit or your electronic drum kit. And for that, I have a few devices. One is called the melody trigger, which will then advance step by step in a sequence, which is a preset sequence. I have a different device, which is a little bit newer, and maybe it's more exciting for people who say like, well, actually, I don't want to play step by step. I'm playing a certain song anyways, and every time when I'm hitting this pad, I want this to play the right note which fits, or the right chord which fits already, which is synced pitch trigger.
That's cool.
That's the name of the device. So, and that makes it a little bit more easy, especially if you're like performing live, if you're like DJing or doing a little bit of like live Ableton electronic music stuff, but you want to add some things for your performance and you just want to bring one pad, you can just hit this pad and it will always play the right note you programmed in before. It just will follow the MIDI clip and the notes which are in the MIDI clip. So, yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, if you want to play some synth stabs or something and always have it in key. Yep. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. We should just sample you singing that and then just use that instead. That sounded great.
Just use the Resampler Pro. Just
that's right.
Put the podcast and the audio bounce into the Resampler
Perfect.
Pro.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Send me some royalties.
Be amazing. Yeah, I know that Alberto Chapa, for the Push 3 episode, he ended up like chopping up the actual episode on the Push 3 and did like a bunch of like, he made a song out of it. It was great. I told him I wanted royalties if he released that and made money off of it.
Yeah, yes. So did your Push 3 arrive yet?
You know, It did not. I'm actually in the process of selling my Push 2 at the moment on Facebook Marketplace and Reverb.com. So I think once that sells, then I'll probably go and claim that discount and grab a Push 3. At this moment, I don't need both. I don't need a Push 2 and a Push 3. So, and also, I'm moving across the city. I just purchased a house. So
Wow, you did it.
that's
Great.
that's expensive.
Yes.
Yes, I'm in debt for 30 years now. So that's exciting.
Yes.
Sign my life away.
Congrats to your debt.
Yes. Yeah, man. If you ever come to Denver, I don't know if you have plans to come to the States in the future years, but you should absolutely come hang out. You have a free place to sleep. I'll get you the finest air mattress you've ever had.
Oh,
yeah.
I need to go to Denver now. Yeah, definitely. Just for the air mattress. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect. No, it would be, would be lush to hang. Ableton should do another loop in Denver, another loop conference.
This would be an amazing place to do loop because there's this really strong arts community here, and electronic music scene is exploding and it's really growing here a lot. And it's not far from LA, which is, a big hub for, loop in 2018. And it's an easy flight just to Denver. We've got the mountains. There's so much to do outside.
Awesome.
I think it would be a perfect place for a loop. Ableton, if you're listening, let's do it. Yes, Denver, yes. Ableton loop. Let's go.
We need another loop. We need another conference. Yeah, it's yeah.
I think it's going to happen. It's just a matter of timing. It will happen eventually.
Yeah, it's probably a lot of money and a lot of investment on
logistics. There's a lot, I'm sure.
Human power going into so I think it's a big thing. But we did a Ableton Drummer Festival last year in Berlin.
Really?
Yeah, it's small, so but really nice place, and it was just opening up after COVID restrictions and etc. So and we had people flying in from I wanted to say all over Europe, but actually it was 2 people from Sweden, 1 person from Sweden flying in.
That's cool.
So yes, so it was a success. But yeah, it's so much work to put on besides your usual business. So it's kind of it's different. And I would love to do it again. We will do a smaller event soon in the UK. But yeah, it's it feels like it's different than it was before COVID, where much more stuff is happening online, funding changed. And just
Yeah, it's a lot. I ran a virtual music festival during COVID, and that was a ton of work. So I couldn't even imagine running an in-person conference or festival. That would be a lot, for sure.
It's fun, man. It's so great. It's so important to meet. It's a different connection. Yeah. So yeah, definitely count me in for coming to Denver at some point, and we can do it.
Dude, let's go.
Some workshops or talks there or whatever. I don't know.
Absolutely. We'll host an event, probably get the Denver user group to, promote it or whatever. And
awesome.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. So speaking of Ableton Live stuff or just music tech in general, are there any new devices or plugins or hardware that you think are cool that you've seen recently? Any new tech? Could be anything.
Could be anything. I just got a new MIDI controller. It's called the MIDI Blaster. I haven't even used it.
Sounds intense.
Yeah, it's a small company, small crowdfunding thingy from Canada. It's another hand MIDI controller, and I used stuff like this before in shows and stuff. It's just really nice to control sounds and reverbs and delays via your hand movement and stuff. And I think we talked about that before, about the Genki ring and stuff. And so and it arrived, and I didn't find the time. I was waiting for it for now for a year or something, because it was a crowdfunding thingy, and I'm really excited to try it out. Yeah,
Indiegogo. It looks like it is closed now, and they reached 312% of their goal. That's great. Good for them.
Yeah. So, but you can order it if you follow there, and it's not like
It's a
it's not
small,
150, I think, plus postage or something
it
like
looks
that.
like a small MIDI USB hub, but it's got like pretty lights on it.
Yeah, so it got 4 sensors you can assign stuff to, and the concept really just sounded great for like being able to switch on the device itself, turning off and on, or assigning different things, having like different scenes on there you can choose from, and some lights showing you which sensor is reacting and stuff. So that was this thing I used before didn't have those, and it was a little bit bigger. And usually I'm traveling for presentations and stuff, and I wanted something smaller and a bit more advanced. And this looks really great. As I said, haven't found the time to check it out.
So we can't quite endorse it yet, but it looks cool and it sounds
Yeah.
fun. That's all we know.
And I always love small companies like myself putting out stuff which
course.
are, a bit more like, hey, you can do that as well. So
100%.
I usually love what small companies are doing. And even if you know the limits, and how to use it, it will be great. So
I'm looking at it right now. It looks like you could do a lot of like tracking with your hand, doing like probably some cool effects, maybe some filter movement with your hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It looks fun. I'll have to check this out. Maybe I'll hit them up and be like, hey, you want to send me one? Talk about it. It'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
Adding more stuff to your new house.
Yeah, right. No, that's the last thing I need right now. It's just more stuff to move across the city. It's amazing when you move, you realize how much junk you have, or you rediscover things you didn't have. I was like, oh, I forgot I had this Genki wave ring and this Voclia doubler.
What's in that box? Oh, it's a push 1.
Yeah, right. No, I haven't seen one of those in a while. Ancient technology. It's a giant paperweight.
Best time to get a push 2 secondhand, I guess.
It really is. Yeah, if you go to reverb.com, there's like 1,000 of them. They're everywhere. You can get one a lot cheaper now.
How much are they now? Like 300-400, aren't they? Like,
yeah, I think most of them are between 400 to 500 right now that I've seen.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is crazy because they were 1,000, right? When they were new, I think they were 1,000.
800, yeah.
Close to.
The Euro prices, it was 800, I think.
Yeah.
Or 700.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild, man.
It's still great, man. It's still like, yeah. If you compare it to the Push 3, probably most people have an audio interface already, and then you're just losing the MPE. If we're not talking about standalone, but yeah.
Right. It is cool that you can actually upgrade, though, the Push 3. I think that's pretty valuable. You can install more, make it more powerful. You can store more, have more storage on it if you have a massive user library. So it's kind of, it's a cool concept. I don't know any other controllers that quite like it, whether you use it or not. It's pretty unique.
Yeah. That's what I really love about it. What I would love to see, because I mean they wrote their own Linux for making the standalone.
Yeah.
So all the investment, all the time went in like, hey, you have this Ableton OS now. Can we use it for some MacBooks or some other computers in the future? This would be so cool because I love the whole idea of having like a music, like having gear for your music. And that's, I think, one of the most important things people like us are telling to people who are asking about, like, is it safe to take a computer on stage and stuff? Yes, as long as you have a dedicated computer for music, where you don't do all the other stuff on and install drivers for your printer or whatever. It's pretty solid. Especially like M1, M2s now. It's like,
wow, it's insane. Those M2s are wild. It's so fast.
So imagine if you would have an optimized Ableton OS like on an M1 or M2, which is just like there for running Ableton Live. And then you have, it would be so powerful, even more powerful than it is now, like both on their own. And yeah, obviously that's like probably not the concept here, but I think that's where, or from my perspective, this is like where if something is coming out of the push 3, which I can endorse, that could be something where I could say like, well, that would be
like an Ableton iPad or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting. Yeah, because
I mean, Ableton iPad.
It'd be interesting. Yeah, I wonder like how many people would really want to have that, and then also be limited maybe with other applications that they would use on their regular computer. So I don't know what the trade-off would be, how many users would actually want that. So interesting. This is like a fun mental gymnastic exercise we could keep doing probably all day.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I have another meeting I have to go to. But man, I would love to sit here and just keep talking all day. Yeah, thanks for joining the podcast, Tobi. It's always good seeing you. I love the work you do, man. Everybody go check out Resampler Pro. Just check out the link in the show notes. Make sure you give Tobi a follow. Hit him up on all the platforms. Where's the best place for people to connect with you if they want to hit you up or follow you?
I would say my newsletter is probably the best thing. If you go to abletondrummer.com, in the top right corner, sign up to my newsletter, or just get a free device and leave the box ticked for being subscribed. Because platforms are changing so much these days, and I'm kind of obviously I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Yes, but I think if you want to be informed, subscribe, whatever makes sense for you.
And you're doing private lessons right now still too, right? So if people wanted help with their live setups, were you open to that?
Yes. I mean, I'm pretty busy. I got some bigger clients at the moment, but there are some weeks like that, and some weeks are more like more time, but so it's pretty hard to book me at the moment, to be honest.
It's a tentative yes.
But yes, of course, I'm always excited about new projects, new approaches and stuff. And yes, I mean, usually you can always write me an email and just ask. And even if you're looking for a solution for some things, I might have developed something which is going your direction already, and I can point you directions. And I do custom devices as well, but as I said, time's busy, and obviously I need to focus on the stuff which
you have a life and other projects that are paying bills. So that's I get it. Sweet, man. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out. It's always good having you on the podcast. We might have to have you back for a third time so you can beat Brian Funk as the most visited guest. That would be sick. Yeah.
Probably going to go to Brian's first and then coming back to you. We'll see.
If you're listening, Brian, you better jump on it.
Get me in there.
Yeah. Right on, man. Well, hey,
awesome. Thank you so much, Dan.
Dude, thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for the podcast. It's so so great to see there's a new episode. Yeah, okay.
Thanks,
That's
man.
Something to listen to and something to get inspired from.
Really appreciate that. Yeah, it takes a lot of time, but I'm actually hoping to be cranking out. The goal is to get to where it's once a week or at least 3 a month, which I think we're going to start doing next month.
Wow.
So yeah, I got a really great video guy now who's working with me, and then I have a new podcast manager. Shout out to Katie. She's crushing it. Her and her husband, Tart Vandalay is their artist name, and she's crushing it with the managing stuff on the podcast. So she makes me look good now, and we'll be doing more. I'll talk to you later, man. Take it easy, everybody. Give Tobi a follow. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Do me a huge favor if you would and hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you don't hate the podcast, please leave a 5-star review. It would help me out a ton. Don't forget to check back on Tuesdays for new episodes. I plan on cranking out a lot more in the upcoming future. Also, if you didn't know, on Spotify, if you click on an episode on mobile, you can interact there and you can tell me what you think about this episode and other episodes, and it would be great to hear from you and see what you're thinking about the podcast. If you want to be the first to get new episodes and stay updated and get free new devices and sample packs and other stuff that I'll be sending out in the future, join the newsletter. Just go to liveproducersonline.com/newsletter and/or check out the links in the show notes. Make sure to give this guest a follow on the socials, give them some love for spending their time. And once again, thanks for listening to the podcast. I will see you next time. Later.